right, so let's talk about the Big Ten kind of as a whole. It's not been a great start to the season. Outside of Purdue, who might be the best team in college basketball, Michigan isn't all that good. Uh, Ohio State hasn't been as good as we expected, although they did get a nice win against Seton Hall tonight that we need to discuss in a minute. Illinois obviously has not been that great. Carter, your boys, Michigan State, have kind of been up and down a little bit. I'm not totally convinced on them. Rutgers just lost at home to Lafayette. Indiana has been like fine, I guess, but they haven't really been tested at all. Maryland lost at home to a George Mason team that turned around and lost to James Madison the next night. So how worried are you about this league overall, Carter? I know you're a Big Ten guy. So how worried are you about this conference?
I'm pretty worried because I think like everything that people talked about in the summer, basically guys getting better, guys making jumps. It seems that collectively no one's making that jump. With the Rutgers team, we expected a jump from players like Cliff, and we expected a healthy Ron Harper Jr. to come back, and he hasn't been able to find his flow. Players like Geo Baker haven't been able to find their flow. It just seems that the Big Ten is a league that a lot of teams are having a crisis right now, whether it be with the personnel or identity of their team. So it's definitely, I don't think it's something that's a one-off thing or it's just like something that's happened earlier in the year. I think it actually might be an issue where people have to take a step back and look at the Big Ten and maybe pump the brakes a little bit and come to the grips with the fact that some of these players and these teams aren't making the jumps that we thought they would make this summer.
Except for Jaden Ivey.
Except for Jaden Ivey, except for Jaden Ivey and Marcus Bingham. Okay, I need to make that be known. Senior year Marcus Bingham is a force.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You got to get that in there.
Have Carter Elliott out there than Marcus Bingham.
Chill out.
No, I do think it's something that's going to be worrisome though, because the whole idea of the Big Ten being the best league in college basketball is that you had all of these like really good teams kind of in the middle to the bottom of the conference, and what that did was it lifted, it made all your computer numbers look better. When everybody is in the top 100 in that conference, then every time that you play someone in league play is going to boost those computer numbers up, and rising tides lift all ships, and all of a sudden you have 11 teams ranked in the top 40 in the net, and everyone's talking about how this is a great conference, blah 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 blah. You're not going to get that this year because they have not been very good in non-conference play, and I do think, Ashton, is good that this ACC Big Ten Challenge, getting a bunch of wins in this is going to really matter for the Big Ten in determining just how many bids that they're going to end up getting to the NCAA tournament. I mean, they got to start getting some wins. They got to have someone other than Purdue look good at some point this season, you think, right?
Oh, for sure. I think that Rutgers loss that's a big loss for the conference as well. Maryland losing to George Mason also. Believe it or not, I still don't think it's just a little early for me. I'm just one of those guys where I try not to press on the button too early just because, especially this year with so many transfers and guys just trying to fit into new roles. For the most part, I try to give, teams time. I think right around the conference play is when everybody is really going to, find their roles individually, coaches and know who they're playing, what players are playing, and I'm just big on identity and roles. So I think it's a little early, but at the same time, they do need some more wins as a conference. And this ACC Big Ten Challenge would be big.
So you talk a little bit about identity and you talk a little bit about roles. And I do think that there is one team that kind of may have found a little bit of that tonight, and that's Ohio State. They knocked off a good Seton Hall team who was missing Miles Cale for most of the second half, who did miss a couple of open threes. But look, EJ Liddell played great. Justin Irons finally started making some shots. And Michi Johnson came up and hit the game-winning three with 1.9 seconds left on what was something of a broken play. So, Carter, talk to me a little bit about Ohio State's performance, and talk to me a little bit about whether or not you are are you back on this Ohio State bandwagon?
Yeah, I am. Unfortunately, I have not been able to leave the Ohio State bandwagon because I made a take to start the year that EJ Liddell would win Big Ten Player of the Year. So I will be firmly on the Ohio State wagon for the whole year. And I think one of the most impressive parts about EJ's game tonight is that he was getting to the free throw line. He shot 10 free throws tonight. So you don't see a player that though can hit outside shots and though can hit that three just settling. He knows he's a force. Even though he's only 6'7", has extremely long arms, extremely strong, stout body. So he's able to get there and punish people inside. So, I like the makeup of this team. He's got shooters with Aaron's out there. And then they're actually getting a lot more from Michi Johnson than I thought they would, he's been a surprise for me this year. So I like the makeup of this team. They know that EJ Liddell's the guy, and they're going to go through him, and they're going to go as he goes. So this was a really big win to bounce back off that Xavier loss. There's a lot of people talking about that loss. So they needed this game against a really good Seton Hall team. So it was a really good win for them.
Yeah, actually, the thing that concerns me about them is it feels like they're trying to play point guard by committee, right? Like they don't have that guy. They have a bunch of guys that are fine, I guess. Like Michi Johnson's good. Jimmy Sotos isn't bad. Jamari Wheeler, the Penn State transfer, like he's fine. He's a really good defender. Doesn't make horrible decisions. Probably won't lose you games. I don't know if they have a guy. I do think to a point when you have multiple, it's the same thing as when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback, right? When you have multiple point guards, maybe you don't actually have a point guard. Am I right to be concerned about that?
Oh, for sure. That was my biggest concern with Ohio State coming into the year was guard play and late shot clock, who would create for others, especially if EJ Liddell doesn't have it going. I think today the difference was just shooting a three. They were 11 for 22 from the 3-point line. So if they can make shots from the 3-point line, that obviously opens things up for EJ down low, and he can really impact the game around the basket. But I think especially as you get into conference play, NCAA tournament play, you got to have guards that can create shots, late shot clock, that could just make plays, not only for themselves, but for others, just to make things easier on everybody. So that's going to be a big vocal point for them.
I thought Malachi Branham was going to be that guy after seeing what he did in the first game. They kept going to him down the stretch over and over and over again in the game against Akron. And he's kind of fallen off a little bit. And I do think it's worth pointing out Justice Suing is not back yet. I don't know. Do we know how long he's going to be out for? All I saw was like out indefinitely.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything on the actual timetable on it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not really a point guard either, but he's another guy that can kind of make plays. And if you you put three big wings out there that can all kind of do that job, it takes a little bit of pressure off of the point guard. Carter, I do have a question for you though. Did you realize Joey Brunk was still playing college basketball?
I actually did not until I was looking at this box score and I literally saw his last name. To be honest with you, I did not know.
It's crazy. Chris Holtman is in his 5th season at Ohio State, right? His last year at Butler was 2016, 2017. He's in his 5th year at Ohio State. Joey Brunk played for Chris Holtman at Butler. That's how old he is. He played for Chris Holtman at Butler. That's crazy.
I don't blame him. I mean, y'all went to college. I won't be trying to leave college neither. Play as long as you can, Bronk. I appreciate it. I see the vision.
Yep. All right. Seton Hall, you guys worried about them at all?
I love Seton Hall, honestly, from top to bottom. The best part I think about Seton Hall is they still haven't gotten anything from Kadari Richmond, and he's one of those guys who's supposed to be an NBA talent, who still hasn't come into his own and found his role with that group yet. But Jared Rhoden, Bryce Aiken had a really good game today. Big men underneath the basket. I think top to bottom, and then Kevin Willard. Just being a coach that likes that fast-paced style. He gets his guys to play really hard, tough, gritty group. I think they're going to be a top 3, top 4 team in the Big East, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with that. And this performance didn't change my opinion of them one bit. They missed we were talking about it off air, probably 3 or 4 threes that were wide open in the final 8 minutes that felt like, if those go down, that's momentum. It's one of those ones where you watch the shot go up and you're like, oh, that's a big shot, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know how you would define that, but there were like 3 or 4 wide open threes, like that's a big one, and they missed it. And I do think that eventually those shots are going to end up going down when you get wide open threes. They're not going to shoot 5 for 23 every single night. To me, this was a game between 2 top 20-ish kind of teams, and so someone had to lose. So. It was a fun game, though. It was a great game, and it's kind of what you look for in Feast Week, right, Carter?
Yeah, like I feel like Kevin Willard just went to the locker room. He's like, you know what, guys, like I can't really just be mad at y'all, or there's nothing I can really point to. It's not like an effort thing. It's just some nights just shots really don't fall. That's the game of basketball. I would bet money that those shots are going to fall, and the whole team is going to shoot a collective 5 for 23 from three. Like that's just one of those nights. And they were still in the game, even shooting that bad. So credit to them. Seton Hall's still a really good team. It definitely doesn't change my perspective on them at all.
My one concern is Miles Kale went out with they called it a lower leg injury or a lower body injury, but when he went down, he was grabbing his groin, and I'm guessing that it was probably pulled a groin or something like that. It's total speculation just based off of what I saw. But how concerned are you about that, Ashley?
That's a big loss. I really do. I believe that from the defensive end and just the leadership standpoint, with him being one of the veteran guys and just bringing that veteran leadership. But they still have enough firepower. Kadari Richmond, like I said, Jared Rhoden, Bryce Aiken is, at the helm, and then Kevin Willard as their head coach. I think they can really make a run, not only in conference play, but in the NCAA tournament when it's all said and done. But Miles Kale, hopefully he can come back. He's definitely a key piece that they need.
Yep, for sure. He just gives them more length and athleticism and switchability and shot making and floor space and all those buzzwords, right? All the cliche things that we talk about in modern basketball. He brings.